Welcome to Hall County Connection. I'm your host, Nikki Young. In this episode, we will be talking about code enforcement. Now, this is the department of Hall County that catches graffiti artists in our parks, gets abandoned properties cleaned up, and addresses other safety hazards and eyesores. We'll be talking to the enforcement officers about what they do and how it affects your quality of life. First up on our show is Marty Nix, Public Safety Director for Hall County. Thank you for being with us, Marty.
Good to be here.
We'll talk a little bit about the Public Safety Department. I know that's a new department that was just created in the spring of this year.
Yes, back in the spring, administration decided that it would be more efficient if we had one department where we had other departments with commonly shared goals all together, such as animal control. We have the enforcement division and park rangers, and that's what was decided to make this whole organization more efficient.
So public safety is an umbrella department for these three divisions?
Exactly, and each one of them enforces county ordinances. So that's why we have this department. They have commonly shared goals.
So what is the difference between the way it's organized now and the way it worked before?
Well, and I'll give you an example. But before we were organized this way, let's say we had a park ranger that was going out to patrol a park, and that park ranger ran across a code violation. Let's say it would have been an inoperable vehicle, a junk vehicle. They typically wouldn't stop and address that issue. Well, now they will do that, and they have the authority and the ability to also enforce county ordinances dealing with code violations of that nature.
To avoid duplicating efforts?
Exactly.
Okay. What are your goals for the new division?
Well, the goals are we've got everybody, the calls for service, we want to concentrate and come into in one area. So what we've done at the 911 center, we answer a lot of calls. We've got everybody there from animal control to code enforcement. All of those calls are funneling through the same building using the same software. So that's our ultimate goal. We also want to work with people in the neighborhoods, educate them to what the goals of this administration and commissioners are. And so hopefully we can address code violations and educate people. That's our primary goal.
I guess public education is one of the main ways you avoid violations, is that right?
Absolutely, and that's what we want to focus on. Of course, citations and taking someone to court is a last resort. We don't want to do that. But that is the ability. These are law enforcement officers, and they have the ability to do that. However, that's a last resort. We want to educate the people and work with the people and to get our neighborhoods cleaned up.
Hopefully that is what we will do with our show today, is give people a little bit more knowledge about what the codes are and how they can avoid violations.
Absolutely, and there is a direct correlation between clean neighborhoods. If you have a clean neighborhood, you're less likely to have crime in your neighborhood, your property values are going to be greater, and the quality of life is going to be a lot better.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of explanation about your new department.
Great to be here.
Enforcement officers are the enforcers of ordinances and regulation in Hall County. They have the tough job of balancing the rights of individuals with the welfare of the general public when it comes to enforcing codes. Their goal is to educate people about the codes and ask them to comply voluntarily, but the officers will issue citations when necessary. My next guest is Andre Niles. He is the supervisor of code enforcement, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about the job of the enforcement officers. Thank you for joining me, Andre.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what the authority and responsibility is of a code enforcement officer.
Well, a code enforcement officer is a post-certified peace officer through the state of Georgia with the same arrest powers and powers of authority as any other police officer in the state of Georgia. But what we primarily do is enforce all the county code and through the county ordinance, and we get complaints from citizens as well as our internal customers, which is the other county departments.
Now, how does that work? How do you balance the work of servicing the customer complaints but also enforcing code for the individual departments?
Well, to answer that question, what we have to do is more or less prioritize our calls. And with health and safety being the #1 priority, we answer those calls first. But from time to time during the day, we have calls from business license, business inspections, and or the other county departments as for somebody not following the county ordinance or following the rules and regulations in which they are hired to enforce.
So what is the overall impact of your department?
Well, That's kind of a twofold question. One, the overall impact is cleaner, safer, better communities, and the other side of it is gaining compliance through those people who come to other county departments for their needs and for their needs to be met.
Give me an example of what your day is like.
My day starts out early. All the code enforcement officers' day starts out early, checking the parks around their surrounding areas in which they are assigned. Then we will come into the office and get whatever priorities is set. Say we have a complaint from a external customer that they have someone with an inoperable vehicle in their yard, or somebody having complaints about noise ordinance and stuff like that. We will answer those calls. Then we will get calls, maybe have a call that we received earlier the day prior. We will answer those calls from other county departments, and we'll try to marry all of those complaints to where we can prioritize them in areas so we don't be going back and forth. We can hit them as we go on our daily rounds.
What is your average response time?
We will answer all external customer calls within a 24-hour period. All internal customer calls, we'll try to get them before the end of business the next day, and the parks we check daily throughout every day.
Okay, and external customers being a resident who calls in,
Absolutely.
and internal being the departments.
And internal being
Okay.
other departments. But our main goal is our external customer, meaning the citizens of the county.
That's right. Well, I'm impressed with the work you guys do, and we thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you for being here today.
And you too.
All across the county, there are compactor sites and secluded places where people love to dump their trash illegally. Two enforcement officers give us a closer look at these problems.
We're at one of the Hall County compactor sites that is owned and operated by the county. It's for the private citizens to use for a dump off for their trash. We allow anybody to drop off recycling of cardboard, paper products, plastic products, but it's the household trash that we monitor the most. That's if you're not a Hall County citizen, you don't have the right to drop it off in a Hall County compactor site. So we ask you to take that back to your county. We check the tags of the incoming vehicles that enter in. If there's a tag that's marked with an out of county, or it's one of the other vanity plates or tags, then we'll go ahead and run those through dispatch, and they'll let us know where that person's from. Otherwise, we'll check their driver's license and we'll ask them questions and determine where that trash has come from. After-hour dumping is the biggest problem that we have. After 7 o'clock at night, they'll just drop their trash off at the front gate that's closed. So our operators have to come in and remove the bags just to get in, and then throw it away. So we'll collect, or they'll collect trace evidence, which is mail that might have a name, address, phone number. We'll log that, we'll tag it, we'll put it in evidence, and we'll try to contact that person. If we can do so, we'll let them know that that's not allowed, and any repeat offenses will be issued with a citation. All of our compactor sites have posted hours on them, and that is Monday through Saturday, 7 to 7, except now on Sundays it'll be 8 to 7. They're all tagged with what people can use, what they can drop off, how they can drop it off, so they're asked to just respect that. We encourage everybody to go to the hallcounty.org, look up their local ordinances, and that'll tell them when the compactor sites are open. If the hours change, they're updated on that. They can also find out what they're allowed to drop off, how they're allowed to drop it off, and all the regulations that Hall County must be in compliance with.